7:44. And as we know, the earthquakes and aftershocks have carried on overnight for Christchurch after the two yesterday afternoon that really frightened the whole city. For Eye on the World, Selwyn Manning has been looking at some of the footage coming through on YouTube overnight and some of the latest news as well. Hello to you, Selwyn.
Yeah, good morning, Glenn.
Good morning. Now, as we know, those aftershocks have continued, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. The latest significant one was 4.7 magnitude at just after 3 a.m. this morning, 3:02 a.m. GNS Science Centre report saying it was strongly felt throughout the Christchurch region. And certainly, the aftershocks have continued right through the night, Glenn.
Now, some of the footage that we may not have seen on the news overnight has started to emerge on YouTube.
Yeah, it has. Some interesting stuff coming through. People have been uploading videos of the two quakes, particularly from yesterday. We've lined up a series of them here so that those who can see this later on can have a look, and we'll talk people who are listening through it. There's it's a home security camera that we are looking at the moment, and it's showing there's four kind of cameras running here, and what it's showing is the quake that came through at around about 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, and shows the trees swinging, cars in the drive, kind of a four-wheel drive thing there, and a truck behind it, and they're kind of swaying around. And as we kind of get through the clip, then it shows, the other one coming through at the second one, the strong one yesterday afternoon at 6 on the magnitude 6, and the trees, and you see the ground really start to actually hammer away there.
And it also shows how people respond when they're driving, because you can see a road in the background as well, and the way people sort of cautiously start to slow down and then eventually stop, and no one is driving at that point.
Yeah, it's an odd thing, isn't it? My sister, who lives down there, she kind of said to me when the big one occurred in February 22nd that she was out, and the car she thought was, the wheels had come loose or something.
Yeah.
The first instinct was that. There's another clip too that we've lined up, Glenn, and it's showing how a chimney has collapsed down over what this guy from YouTube, he's saying that it fell down over the top of his sister's caravan, and he's saying that she was really lucky that she wasn't in it. And it just kind of illustrates very well, the strength and the dangers in Christchurch through this period as it continues to quake. And also it shows, I guess, too, just how amazing it is that we haven't experienced further deaths in Christchurch with this significant afternoon of shakes yesterday.
We're definitely going to hear more of these stories, aren't we, of the close calls of only, if I had been in this place or I was going to be there a minute later. A lot of those coming through.
Absolutely. What we can see in the first wave of accounts coming through is a cold night, obviously, in Canterbury last night. Many have kind of waking up already, jagged nerves from the aftershocks that went through the night. And today it'll be obviously nailing down to the task of cleaning up and trying to get on track toward some sort of restoration and normality. We do know, Glenn, that Christchurch schools are going to be shut today, and they'll remain shut until further notice. Some schools are likely to open tomorrow, but parents have been requested to check with their specific school to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah.
Many schools will also be closed for a time until all business has been checked. There's been a bit of a response too from the government. Yesterday afternoon at the Prime Minister's post-cabinet press conference, that was late yesterday afternoon, John Key, he kind of read from scripted notes, Glenn, to reassure the Cantabrians that the government will do all it can to assist them. And we've got a little bit of a clip there for people to hear.
They've both been significant shakes which have caused renewed damage. To give you some idea of the scale of today's aftershocks, the magnitude 6 quake I'm advised was an 8 on the Mercalli scale, which measures the intensity of earthquakes. By comparison, the February 22nd earthquake was a 9 on the Mercalli scale.
What I find interesting about what John Key is saying there is this Mercalli scale that I had never heard of until these shakes yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. That's a new one that they're trying to bring in, and it's obviously indicating to people, that the Richter scale, or the magnitude 6 yesterday, for example, if you compare it to some of the major big shakes overseas, it doesn't quite equate. There's more damage. There's more. The 6.2, 6.3 in February 22nd caused so much damage. And we know, is because of the geography of Christchurch, the wave kind of hitting the Port Hills region and coming back immediately and whacking, with a double rolling kind of thing. And also how far down it was, the focal depth. Yeah. Now, this scale the Prime Minister is referring to takes that into consideration and compares that from a point of view of severity on the surface. It's an interesting one, and certainly an important one, isn't it?
So it sounds like more of a scale that residents of Christchurch can understand, because they say, it may have been a 5, but man, it felt like an 8 or something. So it makes sense.
It puts a science to it, doesn't it? If the ground's absolutely giving you a bit of a shake, feeling like a bocking bronco in a rodeo, you'd like to know that it's actually got some scientific evidence on how bad it was compared to the last one. And so it was a clever move by John Key on that respect. He also reassuringly notes in his speech yesterday afternoon that Jerry Brownlee, the minister in charge of trying to get Christchurch back on its feet, he was flying back to Christchurch to assess the damage.
And he's now wearing a nice brand new Sarah jacket, I saw last night on the news.
Yeah. We keep putting a bit of a cartoon up on Scoop that has Jerry Brownlee's face and Henry VIII kind of background. We thought he might get into some costume, but he doesn't seem to have picked up the bait so far.
Lots of footage of liquefaction, of course. People are now, they feel, I think almost ready with their cameras and phones when this occurs now, to get out there and capture some of the stuff.
Yeah, I don't think our TV broadcasting colleagues would be short of cameramen after all of this experience that's down there. The liquefaction, coming through. This is the big thing, isn't it? That seemed to be coming through in the clips out of Christchurch yesterday. What we're looking at one at the moment, and it's someone's grass lawn in their garden, and it's just pumping out. For those who kind of have seen Rotorua or even overseas, Yellowstone National Park, where you've got mud pools just oozing stuff out. That's what it's like. And, we've got other clips here too that are showing widespread liquefaction. What we're looking at here on screen at the moment is a whole backyard, the driveway into a home, that is underwater, but not just sitting there. It's absolutely flowing out of the ground and bringing with it all sorts of terrible smells, of course, because it's mixed with water, it's mixed with sewage and anything else that's sitting underground. But it's a disturbing thing. There's a photograph on the front of Scoop also this morning which shows a car that is gone down into the liquefaction. That's kind of on about a 30-degree angle pointing into the ground where it's gone in. So you can imagine walking through these streets and having some sympathy for the people who live around these areas in Christchurch. This is predominantly the eastern suburbs who are having to actually not only suffer this, but also be very careful that they do not kind of go down into a bit of a pit. What the videos that we're looking at the moment, these are even more widespread. These are whole streets that are underwater. This is flooding from burst water mains where it's absolutely hitting. And this is around the Avondale kind of area, the Avonside areas as well have been underwater in this way. So flooding's a problem. Liquefaction with all of its sewage problems brings with it health problems. So, the authorities down there, the Civil Defence and also the City Council have really got their work together ahead of them today.
And you've been talking to your sister down there. I've been talking to my parents as well. Is there a feeling, though, that particularly for the people in the eastern suburbs, that this is back to square one?
Oh, yeah, it must be. The eastern suburbs, New Brighton and around there, they've been hit so bad again on this. Clearly, there's major problems on top of problems now. And just when everybody thought that things were starting to actually get into a state of, having some direction and repair, the problems are back again. Now, that's all stating the obvious, of course. My sister, she lives in the western suburbs just past Riccarton, and she's she's very, very pleased that, you know, her home seems to be standing up to all these shakes. It rattles around, but she's, you know, there, and she's saying that the bad thing that they're noticing now is, you know, the nerves are starting to get pretty rattled. But back up here, I guess, you know, the whole country's got its road ahead, you know, in this respect too, and it's back to supporting Christchurch, having it at the front of our minds again. And Glenn, I kind of wondered whether or not it was time to roll our sleeves up and start a sausage sizzle outside Eden Park and take on some of those Rugby World Cup legal bruises that seem to not want to allow such things to be within a certain radius of Eden Park and the other parks where the Rugby World Cup's going to be held. So let's see what we can do, eh?
Indeed, it could be the plan. Thanks very much, Selwyn.
Okay, Glenn. Okay, take care.
Check this out as a video once more up at scoop.co.nz.